In this episode of my Transit Connect van conversion series, I'm going to show you how I installed the solar panel on the roof. If you want to see how I installed the cable gland, then click here to see how. Before we get stuck in, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. You don't want to miss out on the content that's coming up. I'm always interested to hear what you think of my videos, so please leave a comment below. Remember to like the video, and after you've subscribed, click on the bell icon so you can get notified for when my videos go live. It's great to have you along. Let's get started. So the first thing I need to do is mark out the middle between these two bits of box section, because I'm attaching the solar panel between here and here. And this one's staying put, that one's moving along, and this one's being removed. But I'm not going to remove the entire piece. I'm going to remove it close to where the solar panel will be. So that's why I need to find the center. So what are we? This total width is 1152. So 1152 divided by 2. 576 should be covered over here. And then let's grab our pen. 576 is there. So then I need the width of the solar panel, or the length, which is 1030, and I can verify that using the box 1030. So I now need to measure from the center 515. I'm going to cut these. I'm not going to cut them completely flush. I'm going to cut the width of a bit of tape shorter on each side, so I'm going from here around like that. Here and here are where I'm cutting. Here we go. That's one of them. All right, I can just check that between there and there is 35 millimeters longer than the length of the solar panel, which is great. I've got my two tubes which I cut off the roof racks, and the next thing I need to do is lengthen one of them. In order to do that, I need to know how long it needs to be. So I need the distance between here and here. So I'll just go from the outside edge to the inside edge and subtract 25. So that's 1340. That's how long my modified steel tube needs to be. I had a rootle around in the garage and found this bit of stainless steel tube, and it's not ideal. You can't weld mild steel to stainless, but I won't need to. Because this is a smaller diameter, it fits almost perfectly inside the steel tube. So I need to measure the length of this, 1034, 517. And all that's doing is telling me that I want to push it in this far. Before I weld all of this together, I need the whole thing to be the right length. And then I'll bring them over to the vise. So we've got it held in place. All right. And now I'll thread the stainless tube. Here we go. Here it comes, and we're through. I found a 5mm steel bit. Drop that through there. Screw it through here. Are we through? Yes, here we go. So what we now have is we're threaded through the stainless and just dropped through the mild steel. So now I can cut the bolt here and here, then I can weld it, and then I can grind it back, and that's going to secure this in place. Got a slight change of approach here. I've removed the tails of all of the bolts, but then when I come to remove the head, it just turns the bolt. I'm going to weld each of the tails of the bolts, fixing it in place onto the outer tube, and that means that when I come around to take these off with the hacksaw, they won't be able to move. Great, that one can't move now. Perfect. Next one. So with that weld put in place, this bolt can't turn anymore, which means that it's very easy for me to remove with the hacksaw. Ow. The first thing I need to do with these brackets is to drill out the middle hole to it needs to take an M6 bolt to match the pre-drilled holes on the underside of the solar panel. So I'm just going to bring it up to 1/4 inch, which is about 6.5 mil, I think. Going up by 1/2 mil at a time because all my drill bits are so blunt. Then I'm going to grind back the burrs. It also makes sense to prepare the bracket for welding at the same time. Now I'm going to attach the remaining 3 brackets to the solar panel like this. For that I'll use M6 by 16 stainless bolts, stainless washers and stainless lock nuts. In order to keep the steel away from the aluminium to prevent them from fusing over time, I've cut some small pieces of silicone from a sheet and I'm just going to punch a hole toward the end so that when I insert my stainless steel M6 by 16 bolt and stainless washer, like so, I can then pop my bit of silicone over the top of the bolt, then pop my bracket over the top, followed by a stainless washer, followed by a stainless lock nut. Then I'll use my spanner and socket to nip it up. Not too tight at the moment, just tight enough that it can't wiggle around too much. So I can move it if I need to, but it's pretty much going to stay where it is. I'll repeat that 3 other times and then I can pop it on the roof for the next step. I'm shimmying it so the brackets go underneath the existing tube. Then I can lay it down like this. I think I've got a plan for what I want to do next. I can grab the tube that I extended and drop that one into place here. Basically, I've got to get these ones spaced away. You can see here that I've moved the bracket so that it's pushed up against the steel tube. And I'll do that on the other end as well. And then I know where I need this one. That is how I want it spaced lengthwise. I'm going to clamp the tube down like this. Right, that's clamped. So the next thing I want to do is taking this, which is a straight edge, popping it on here, and then I need to add 10 millimeters of spacing to each end of this inside of the tube, and then I need to lift the solar panel up so it's pushed up against that spacing. I've got to clamp the spirit level to the tube on each end, and then I've got to clamp the solar panel to the spirit level to get my height. This guarantees that the solar panel is dropped by 10 millimeters all the way around. Occasionally, getting stuff done in a timely fashion takes precedence over getting that task filmed. So unfortunately, I did not film the process of me attaching the new tube to the rack or attaching the brackets to the tubes. It's just the way that it is sometimes. I'm gutted, but nothing I can do about it. So I've got that welded on, and now before I do anything else, I'm just gonna cut this the same height as the top. Before I grind anything back, I want to get a weld in through here now that I've got better access without this piece getting in the way. Because if I were to grind it back now, then I'm just grinding too much into these welds and then I'll have a weak join. Okay, so I'm finally ready to sort my cable connectors, and I've got to be careful because I've only got this much. Maybe I could get a bit more out of here, but I want to get this right first time. So to start with, I want to make sure that I've got a good square end on both. That one's pretty good. Next I need to strip the cable ends, and I want approximately 10 millimeters. We're going to say there. Oh, now I've got to do it manually and just be really careful I'm not catching the cable inside. Right, there we go. So at the moment I don't need to be worrying about which is male and which is female, because they're already wired on the solar panel, so I've just got to get them the right way around. So for the moment I can just in here like this, just gently, so it's held in there, and then I want to pop the cable in. I've crimped these so they're too smaller than they say you're meant to, and they're loose. Right, so that isn't crimping properly, so I'm going to try something I did previously. I don't think they're moving now. That's good. So the next thing I need to do is attach the connectors. You have a male and a female connector, and confusingly, the male crimp goes on to the female connector, the female crimp goes on to the male connector. And really critical here, if you've already pushed your cables through, i.e. you don't have access to the other end of the cable, then you need to make sure you put these screw caps onto the cable before you attach the connector. It's a good job I went and checked there, because you also need to put these over and make sure they're over the insulation too. Right, now's the important bit. Male onto female. Push this in until it clicks, I think. Then we can pop these in and screw them up. Done, hopefully. I now need to establish which of the two cables coming through is positive and negative. And the way I'll do that is by working back from the top. The next thing to do is find out which of the two cables going into the solar MPPT charge controller, and the way I'll do that is by pulling the cables out of the electrical cupboard and bringing them back up to the roof. I'll just hook them around here for the moment. The solar panel comes with its cables and connectors attached out the box, so I don't need to work out which is the positive and negative. It tells me on there, and by process of elimination I know that this here is the positive cable because it connects into there, and then this must be the negative. And now what I'll do is I'll use my multimeter to test for continuity between each one to find out which of these is which. Then I'll pop a bit of tape around them and feed them back into the electrical box, and then I'm not going to get anything wrong when I'm plugging them into the solar charge controller. All right, so we can disconnect these again. Take our multimeter, I'm going to put it into resistance. There we go, that one. This is the positive because we had the zero resistance. Right, that one's positive, and let's just confirm what we found out by going positive, putting it into here, and then what we've just learned is the negative. Let's just prove that by showing that there's a resistance of 1. Now we know what's what down below. I finally got my solar cables through the walls and into the electrical cupboard under the bed. I think I'm not going to bother shortening them for the moment. I can get away with pulling the excess back into the walls and that will be fine. So I'm going to pop these into PV minus and PV plus. Is that in there? No, I can't even. No, that's not a right place. Ah, here, have some. Here's some evening entertainment for you. Watching me struggle to put this stupid thing in. So it's load plus, load minus. You can't. It's impossible. Basically, got to turn it completely around on itself like this. There we go. That might be it. Right, that seems to be holding there. I'm just trying to put the camera somewhere so it shows you how stupid this is. I don't get why it's so hard to get this in. Just doesn't want to go. Right, they're in. The final part of the installation was to mount the solar panel onto the brackets that I'd attached to the roof rack, and it was a real ball ache to install. The underside of the solar panel has a lip running all the way around the perimeter, so in order to drop the bolt through the hole on the underside, I had to get my hand under the roof rack, up and around, kind of navigating over the lip so I could drop the bolt through. And then I needed to have a spanner attached to that bolt and another spanner doing up the nut on the underside. So it was a rigmarole, not fun, but it's on now and it's probably never going to come off. So it can come off with stress, but it shouldn't have to. Finished. Unfortunately today the weather isn't very good, so I'm not going to bother showing you how to hook up the Victron Connect app. I'll do that in another episode when the weather's better. Thank you very much for watching, especially as you've watched all the way through. Remember to subscribe if you haven't, and when you've done so, click on the bell so you get notified. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you thought of the video. See you in the next one.